Hello, everybody. Welcome. So I am going to talk today about one of our first assignments with Adobe Illustrator, and it's called Animal Silhouettes. We're going to be using the tracing a JPEG method, so we'll go over that in just a second. But first, I wanted to show you some excellent student examples from the past of this project and how students interpreted to create some really fascinating, awesome results by exploring a variety of tools. So I will go ahead and share my screen here and we will get started. So first of all, the tracing a JPEG method works best if you have a JPEG that has a very clear, like an object with a clear outline. So our goal is to focus on animals for this project. So you have to choose an animal. It doesn't matter what animal. Here it's a fish. My demo is today going to be about an elephant, but you want to make sure that you have the entire outline of the animal in the photograph that you search for on Google. So you don't want like their legs cut off or covered by grass. You want a definite, like, clear outline of the animal. You can either use a regular JPEG, like in this example, just a regular picture, or you can search for a silhouette of that animal, and then you should get a more clear image that Illustrator will be able to convert for you automatically. Okay, so your first task is to find that silhouette or that animal that you want, and then you can either use the pen tool in Adobe Illustrator to trace around that animal's outline to capture that shape, and then you want to copy and paste it about 3 times so that whenever you say, for example, click on it with the type on a path tools, if that's one of the tools you want to explore, you're not going to lose the shape and the ability to give it a color like you would when you make it into a text box. So you want to make sure you make copies of that animal before you start clicking around and doing things. Here's some examples. You can add shapes, to make it an abstracted version of a fish or whatever animal you pick. You can add the gradient tool, you can add the radial or the linear gradient, you can add what's called the mesh gradient tool. We'll look at that today. You can warp it with that scallop, those warp tools. You can smear the pixels, or not pixels, but smear the lines like as if your finger was in wet paint. You can add details with the line tool or the pen tool to make it look realistic. You can even add texture, or you can add a picture actually within the outline of that animal. So the idea is you want to add or want to use 5 tools on each of your outlines. So overall, you're going to be using about 15 different tools. What you don't want to do is the same thing on each outline. Each of your fish or each of your animals should look very different. So we'll look at an example here. You can also like add an environment, add backgrounds around them, add details, that kind of thing. And props, those are kind of fun. Okay, so here is my animal silhouette. I wonder if it'll let me do a PowerPoint. Let's see. Okay, so your animal silhouette project will look something like these. First of all, again, you want to find that animal picture. It can be like a regular JPEG with color and details, or it could just be the silhouette. If you just type in silhouette, that should pop up animals that are like an easier outline to find. So you copy and paste your silhouette at least 2 or 3 times. You want 3 animals in all, but I like to have like an extra copy off to the background in case I mess one up. Make sure your design is colorful and visually pleasing. You're using at least 5 tools per animal, like I said. And if you have time, try and incorporate some props. You could add hats or costumes, silly faces, eyeballs, tools. The animal could be doing something, maybe interacting with its background in some way. You can add food, maybe it's eating. Maybe it's breathing, like little bubbles if you have a fish or something. So think about different creative ways that you can incorporate a background behind your animal silhouette. So these are just some great examples from past students. We have the blend tool off to the left. There's the warp tool, the scallop tool on, and the warp tools are some hidden tools underneath the width tool, which we don't really go over the width tool, but the warp tools are under that. You can add shapes. That one has a crown and a name, like a collar. The blend tools have lots of different options. There's the type on a path. There's the paintbrush tool if you wanted to add like texture with a paintbrush or with patterns under the swatches menu. Here at the top, you can kind of see there's a beaver in the shape of the beaver. So how to paste in a picture into the space or create like a clipping mask. And yeah, just lots of different options for you in creating backgrounds. The mesh gradient tool's right here on this goose. So you can kind of lay in colors in a creative, unique way. And then adding backgrounds, type or area type tool, maybe in combination with some other effects. You could use the type tool. Here they've kind of made their animal into a snow globe, which is interesting. Here's kind of a throwback to the iPod commercials with the silhouettes. There's like an abstract design with different colors and brush strokes. So, and if you want to keep your picture off to the side, you can kind of try and recreate some of that realistic looking pattern on your animal by basing it on that original picture. But you want your picture off to the side so that whenever you turn this in, all that really shows is what you've created on your 3 animal outlines. So this is 15 points, 5 points per animal or per silhouette. So these are all just good examples that would have gotten an A for the 5 tools being used. So you can be clever, you can add backgrounds. This one down here has like a superhero costume on, so that kind of adds a little bit of difficulty to what you're trying to do by adding clothing or costumes or different colors. Each of your silhouettes should look very different from the others. And here's just some other good examples. Okay, I want to show you how to get started on this on your Adobe Illustrator. So I went ahead and found a picture of an animal online. You can either find, like I said, that JPEG, or if you want to go to Google and search for a silhouette, whoops, it's S-I-L, it should pop up, but H-O-U-E-T-T-E. And that just means it's the basic outline of the shape. It doesn't have any details on the surface. So this one might be a good one. You want them to have their feet all the way in the picture. So I might copy this or save it to my desktop and then paste it into my Illustrator document. So let's start a new document, file new. And I'm gonna make it like a sheet of paper. So 8.5 by 11, this letter paper size, create. Oops, I just noticed it's on a different orientation. So if you want it to be in portrait orientation, that's fine. Command V, paste it in. You can make it bigger with the moving tool. And these little pixelated, we'll see what Illustrator does. I'm going to show you the hard way first, just depending on what you want to do. If you're trying to capture like elements within, like maybe the detail of the ears or detail of the eyes or whatever, you might want to use this tracing a JPEG method with the pen tool. And then the easier way, I'll show you in a second. So using this pen tool, you want to start somewhere on your shape. You want to make sure that your line has a really distinct color. So I'm going to make my stroke, let's make it red so that we can definitely see it. And I can always change the color later. Okay, so I'm going to start clicking around this outline here. And you want to click whenever the line changes directions. So notice here it goes from the top of the ear down. So I'm going to place a point right there, maybe drag it out a little bit to follow that curve, and then I'm going to go maybe reset this point by clicking right on it. And that's pretty much a straight line from here to there. From here to there is a little bit of a curve. It does not have to be perfect. Okay, and notice how it's trying to finish my curve in an intelligent way. It's trying to make a smooth curve. I don't want that because it changes directions pretty abruptly. So if I zoom in so you can kind of see what I'm doing, see how it's trying to finish my curve? I'm going to click right on that point, convert that anchor point, and now it's a straight line again. So if I want it to curve, I can drag, but I don't. So I'm just going to leave it kind of straight. Convert it. Click, click. You can just kind of click all the way around, drag to make a curved line, click to make a straight line. And you don't want to go into the details on the inside. You're just trying to get the silhouette. You're trying to get just the outline of this animal. Click and drag wherever it changes directions, click and drag. Click on the point to reset it. So you just kind of have to play with it. This is really good practice with using that pen tool. Okay, so you need to do it all the way around, and you'd eventually get your outline of your elephant. So say I went all the way around, something's happening, blah, blah, blah. Okay, So I would then maybe move my elephant off to the side. Obviously this does not look like an elephant, but just for the sake of time, I would take that elephant outline and I would copy it multiple times. You can hold Option and click, and then you have copies, or you can click on it, go up to Edit Copy, and then Edit Paste, or you could do Command C, Command V. And then you have multiple copies of this elephant ear. I only have the ear so far. Okay, the other way is a lot easier. So if you just have the silhouette of this animal, you can go up to, this is an image, we copied it from the internet, so it's just a JPEG. So on the options bar, it gives us the ability to trace this image. So it's gonna do basically what I was doing with the pen tool, it's gonna do it for us. So if you click on this little drop-down menu, you might wanna click on silhouettes. So there, boom, just like that. It basically converted this picture into a vector image or a vector graphic. So if I click expand, now this shape has points and lines. So I can use my direct selection tool and I can manipulate those points. I'm obviously not gonna want to, but I could. I could make its tail longer. All these are able to be manipulated. And that's what you want in order to type on a path, to have your line, your text going around the elephant. Area type tool, have your text go inside the elephant. Just remember to make copies first, because you're gonna lose the ability to give it a fill or a stroke color after you click on it with those text tools. So 5 tools per animal. We wanna copy this multiple times and you want them all to fit on your piece of paper. So you can copy them, and have them off to the side until you know what you're gonna do. But eventually you're gonna want them all to fit on this document. You can make them smaller, kind of rearrange. Okay, so one of the tools that we haven't gone over yet is that mesh gradient tool. So the gradient tool we looked at, but right next to it, this mesh gradient tool will allow you to click on the exterior and it will fill your shape with these smart lines that are trying to figure out the contours of that shape to make it look like a form instead of just a flat shape. Now, obviously these colors are all kind of messed up. So if you want to place your own swatches, you go to the swatches menu. If that's not open, again, you can find it under window and then down at swatches. So I'm just going to drag and drop these colors onto my mesh. So you can drop them on the inside of a square, or you can drop them on the point, and then it'll create a circular, diffused area of that color. So this can be really cool. And then those guidelines go away when you click off your shape. So that's a fun way to fill your shape with a lot of different colors of more realistic looking variations in color. So if you have a giraffe, you could drop in brown and yellow colors to kind of simulate the spots. Okay, if you're trying to get a picture and have the picture fit inside this elephant, so say we want to look for maybe elephant texture. So get the skin, make sure it's a big enough image. So if you want to search for larger images, you can go to Tools and then change your size to large. And then I think some people were saying they had issues searching for images, only a couple would come up because there's so many restrictions on usage rights. So these are the usage rights right here. If you want all, or commercial and other licenses, that's kind of controlled by your computer. So I think by default, you guys might have more restrictions than just all. Okay, so let's get a elephant skin here. I'm gonna copy and then go to my Illustrator. You can also save to the desktop and add by going, let's see, File, Place. So if I had it saved on my computer, I could place it into this document that way. But I just copied it. So paste. Okay, it's really big, so I'm going to kind of. And then we want this animal to be on top of the skin. So Object, Arrange, bring to front, make sure it fits, and then I'm going to select both, and I want to clip this image to the shape of the elephant so that it's kind of like using a stamp or a scissors or cutting out the perimeter. So we go Object, Clipping Mask, Make, and that has a keyboard shortcut of Command 7. And boom, there it is. There's my elephant that has an interesting fill. And I think you can still click on this with that type on a path tool. Well, if it doesn't let you, you can always click on another one. Blah, 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 blah. Start typing until you have text all the way around. And then you could always make this a little bit bigger and fit it around your elephant. So the purpose of this activity is just to really explore those tools and try and be as creative as possible in order to capture that animal's silhouette. So another thing you can do, so you'll notice that it's a little offset. I made it bigger, but it doesn't quite fit the shape perfectly. So if you want to make like different levels of outlines for this animal, you can come up here and click on Object, Path. So you might want to even spend some time just exploring the object menu, looking at all the different things that you can do, like blends and envelope distort. You can fit text within like an outline. I can show you that too. You know, image trace is right there. So there's a lot of things that you can do with the object menu, but I'm going to try path, and then we want offset path. And we're going to show a preview of this. So there it is. It just made another shape underneath of it. That's the same shape, but bigger. And, you know, you can increase this, maybe make that 2, click OK. So now the top shape, if we double click, we could isolate just that, make it different than the outline. So it's kind of like making a stroke, but you can make it bigger and it doesn't like go into the shape. So there's that. We can also do something called envelope distort. So remember, if you're doing something really different, you might want to make a copy. And I might get rid of the, oops, the background for right now. There we go. So if we type just a regular word like elephant, we can go up to the character menu in order to make it bigger, change the font, all that stuff. Let's give it more of a creative font under here, or just a bold font would be fine. Okay, and you can also use the selection tool to make your text bigger by dragging it out, and then you're going to select both and then go down to Object. Again, the object menu is fun, so play around with the object. Also, the effect menu is fun. So you can add like warps to the design where it's like inflated, or I don't know, just different shapes. You can stylize. You can try like a drop shadow behind your shape. You can try to feather that edge. So that would be kind of cool. So really just kind of click around for this project. This project's about each of us learning different things based on what you click on, what you explore, what you push yourself to learn. So don't just stick with what I showed you in the very first tutorial video. Maybe Google some other effects that you can use. Just try clicking around, be accident prone. Try to really stumble upon something that maybe nobody else is using. And if you get stuck, you can always send me an email or ask for some help during work time or those office hours. Okay, so go down to envelope distort, and then we're going to make with the top object. And what does it say? Must be a single path. So sometimes the outline is too complicated to do some of these effects, but I think it's because this needs to be one shape. So let's go ahead to Object, Expand. So that's going to make this into shapes with like points and lines. So each of those letters is no longer a letter, now it's a shape. So we need these all to be one shape. So we're going to go to Object, Compound Path, Make. And now we can put this on top of our elephant. Select the elephant, Object, Envelope Distort, Make with top object. And the other thing that might have happened is, yeah, so this is supposed to be underneath that. Okay, so we're going to delete this, do it again. Type elephant, make it a little bigger with the selection tool. And this time we're going to put the top object over it. So the elephant needs to come to the top. There we go. Object, clipping, nope, not clipping mask, envelope distort. Make with top object. Okay, so it didn't do a super great job because the elephant is so complicated. But if you laid something like that over the top of the outline, it might create an interesting like abstract design. This is how it's supposed to work. So Command Z, release that. We're gonna move our outline out of the way. So if we wanted to use this effect, we could use a circle. That's simple enough. Put the circle on top of the elephant. Whoop. Highlight both. Try it one last time. Envelope distort, make with top object. So now it's filled the top object. Now I can take this. Maybe the elephant could be standing on that ball like a circus. Maybe I can make it smaller, make it fit inside of his belly. So you can kind of play around with how you use these different tools in order to decorate your JPEGs, decorate your animal silhouettes in interesting ways. Let's see, there was one more thing that I wanted to show. We filled the outline with a picture using text tools, expanding the shape, adding like an outline around it. Oh yeah, the drop shadow. So if we click on this outside shape or the black, see now just the black is selected. I don't have the red selected. I had to double click a couple of times to enter what's called isolation mode. So that means I'm within a group. So right now, if I just, clicked off of it and tried to move it, they would all move, all those shapes would move together. But right now I'm inside of this group. So to get off of that, I can just double click on the background and that goes away. But notice this moves together. If I just want one part of that group, I have to double click, triple click until I have just the background selected. So now I'm going to go to effect, try these different effects, see what works. Stylize, feather, and then show a preview of that. Ooh, and then click OK. Do you kind of see it working? So now there's like a drop shadow type of effect around my outline. So you can really have fun with a lot of different tools. Maybe use the pen tool to try and create some eyeballs. You can use the symbol tools to add a lot of different symbols. They're not open right now, so you go to the window menu. Anytime those palettes off to the side are closed, you can find them under the window menu. So explore, maybe patterns, maybe brushes, color guide will give you like color schemes that you can choose from. Let's see. And then symbols, swatches are always important. These little library at the bottom indicates that there's a lot more options. Let's see what kind of nature symbols we have. There's mad science. Here's nature. So you can kind of scroll through and see all the different choices you have to decorate your scene. Maybe you want some trees in the background behind your animal. You can make those bigger. And if you ever want to alter these symbols, so like right now, they probably look better on the white. So if you ever want to alter those, maybe make the leaves yellow instead of green, you can hit edit symbol. And then these are just like points and lines, and you can fill them with different colors. So double click to like select individual ones, make it more like orangey. Whoops, zoomed way in there. So now this is still a shape, but you've been able to edit that. Okay, so have fun, be experimental, be accident prone on this project. The idea is to try a lot of different things and see what work. The warp tools, I believe I've gone over before, but let's object ungroup this. There we go. So the warp tools are underneath this width tool, and this is how you can stretch things out. You can bloat, make this like a bigger elephant. And then to change the size, you have to double click. And I would increase these at the same level, so the width and the height should be the same. And click OK. So you can make them a little fatter. Feel like a camel. Then there's this wrinkle tool, is kind of handy. So you can see what that does to the outline. It makes it look furry, like a woolly mammoth or something. Okay, so be experimental, have fun, and be creative on these 3 animal silhouettes that you create. Thank you, guys.